Okumura is so dumb. Stupid! This idiot is so dumb that he has decided to ignore women for the rest of his life and devote his stupid and rizzless self to clapping 2D girls. Let me put it in simpler terms. This elevated idiot prefers girls from his manga to females in real life. Everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Sorry, that's from a different show. Everything changed when a girl joins his club and starts cosplaying for him. Now he's caught between clapping his manga waifu or clapping this big melon demi-goddess. This anime is all about the ultimate display of bodily perfection, the ultimate expression of art using cosplay. Just like the anime, my dress-up darling, but here he doesn't make the dress, he's just obsessed with the girls in the dress. That boy's like me for real. It's either the beginning of the school year or a festive period, but everyone's scattered all around like ants, and a very special young man has locked himself in a manga room, and this fool is screaming at the top of his voice over a dying game character. He introduces himself as the ultimate virgin Ashford Okumura and gives up a little intel about himself. His mother left him to be with another man, and when he tried to ask out his crush, she looked at his ugly face and decided she could never be with a guy that looks like a teenage mutant ninja turtle. In return for his courage, he didn't just get turned down, he was rewarded handsomely with an ample amount of bullying. Now he's got no interest in real-life 3D women and has plunged into the weird realm of 2D women, pictures and games. His 2D lover Lily L has always been there for him, so it is safe to conclude he's been gooning himself on his free time to some Ice Spice leaks. A lady with pink hair drags her bag across the hall like an unwanted ghost. She sees the manga club and goes in. She introduces herself as Ririsa Amano, a first-year manga lover, and will call her Riri. The 2D lover is shocked to see a 3D girl in the manga club. He concludes that she's in it for the handsome men, but this club is made solely for melon and buns worship. Before he can think of a way to send her away, she sees a set of dolls by a shelf and runs to it, giving him the perfect opportunity to send her packing. He thinks seeing those limited edition would eke her and send her running in disgust, but she smashed the reality of her love of the dolls to his ugly face with her knowledge of the manga. She comments that black peach covers would make Lily L look better. He agrees with her and tells her she's not weird, and for a matter of fact, they have something in common. She challenged him and says she's always loved characters that are designed to make men think of nothing else but clapping them. Guys, is this supposed to be a hint at something more devious to come? Let me know in the comment section because I'm a clueless idiot. She especially loves the character Lily L and wants to be like her. He's smitten by her love for Lily L as he thought he'd never meet someone who loves Lily L as much as he does, but the problem with the angel standing in front of him is she's one-dimension surplus. She sees the old movies playing on the monitor and dashed to it like she just won a lottery. Like two kids watching Mr. Beast videos, they were eyes glued to the screen before they knew it. They both screamed out Lilial when she was about to get hit in the movie like two weebs. They look at each other and it utterly hurts the guy that she's too many dimensions out of his specification, but is the perfect Lilial fan. She calls him the ultimate name, Senpai, and asks if he could help her with her hobby. Bro, if a chick ever called me Senpai, I would pass out right there. She worries it'll weird him out, but he assures her that a true otaku would never judge someone for what they love. It's their love, passion, heart and soul, and that's what we'll call him, the otaku clapper guy. She explains that since she was a tiny toddler, she's always admired cosplayers. When she got a little older, she went to try out, but her was sent out of the venue and told to return once in high school. When she walked through the gates of the high school, as fate would have it, she saw the pictures of Lilial on the wall of the manga room from outside the window, and also saw the loser screaming Lilial's name. She said it was nothing short of the god of clapping bringing them together. Now, to her request, she asks him to take pictures of her cosplay, as she can't and won't be comfortable with a stranger and would much rather prefer him, a Lilial imaginary clapper. He imagines seeing a 3D girl in such costumes and tells her that it won't faze him because he's into 2D girls and not real-life melon bearers. Oh, what little hope I have left for this anti-clapping idiot. Can someone send this loser to the Shadow Realm already so I can take his place? She's so delighted that he's a super otaku and begins to help her change, if you know what I mean. He sees her and begins to panic that she was about to him, Gorlock the Destroyer style, but she calms his and tells him she's just changing into one of her cosplay dresses. He quickly uses a board to cover the window to be the only one to see her in her glorious form. He turns around and sees a real-life Liliel standing right in front of him, and he flies into the wall like he's been hit with a tsunami or the Sanji flu from One Piece whenever he sees a beautiful lady. She goes ahead to show him her peach covers, and his head goes into overdrive and his face begins to turn pepper red. He holds himself together but loses composure when she turns around and faces her peaches to his face, showing how the peach covers look from behind, and asks what he thinks about it. He wakes up chanting that his lover is 2D and 3D girls are disgusting. He opens his eyes and realizes that his head is on Riri's lap because he passed out after looking at that. I'm sure he ogled at her melons from underneath that shirt until his brain ran into overdrive and passed out again. The next day, he wonders if his virgin self is falling for her and cheating on 2D Liliel. Riri walks in and they exchange pleasantries. She sees his lonely self watching the OVA of a series, and the fellow weeb joins him. Since he knows a lot about the characters, she asked him to enlighten her on the beauties of this OVA movie. They sit, and through the movie, he gives her so much information. She's wowed by the amount of information he has, and asked him how he knows so much. He says he's done his research, and just then she cites a game and asks if it's part of his research. They begin to play the game, and the thinks to himself that, damn, having this amazing manga lover as a friend, even though she's a girl, is not really so bad. She stops his line of thoughts by asking if she can pause the game. She goes ahead to pause the game exactly when the string with triangles of the character was showing. She takes a picture of it and says she likes her cosplay to be detailed so it would feel so realistic to those who see it. Otaku thinks back to when she flashed him her peach covers and realizes she's way deep into this cosplay thingy. She immediately gets up and begins to free Willy.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Oops, I mean free the melons. Otaku immediately used the board to cover the window. She changes into her cosplay, and this unimaginably blows the mind. They set up a white background and begin to take pictures. While he's at it, his mind can't waver from the thoughts of how pretty she looks, and his mini eggplant seconds that thought. She immediately changes into another costume and then takes another round of pictures. When he's done, she tries to take off the dress, but the zip gets stuck. He tries to unzip it and it opens up all the way. He quickly turned his face at the speed of light and said he saw nothing. She tripped and began to fall towards him. He steps in and saves her, and she calls him by his name, Ashford. She tells him that he can let go, and he realizes that he's been holding onto her left melon all this while. He freaks out and apologizes. Well, my weebs. The plot has finally thickened, and no, I don't mean Okumura's lightsaber. She tells him he can leave since it will take a while to change, and he runs out like he's being chased by a mob. Later on, Riri wonders why her heart is beating so fast. Little does she know that her lonely self has begun to fall in love. A new student enrolls in the school. The principal feels the school is too low for her standard because she is a model he's seen on TV. She says the school is just perfect. She sees Otaku's ugly face as he was walking by, and she has a flashback of when she screamed out loud that she hates him and hates manga. She has more than the hots for Otaku. She's obsessed. Her name is Makari, and half of the school seems to know who she is. As she walks down the hall, everyone picks up their phone and takes a pic of her. When she gets to class, she gives her autograph to her fellow classmates. Every other girl in class automatically became side characters. Even Riri must have felt a little jelly. She asks her fans if there's a manga club. They're amazed that she likes manga, but she says she hates manga. Otaku, on the other hand, has not gotten over feeling real-life melons for the first time in his life. He walks across the hall like he's been possessed by a ghoul. He got to the manga club, hoping that Riri wouldn't be in there already, but she was. Riri has fallen head over heels for him, and doesn't know how to express her feelings. He breaks the silence with news of something big happening, and she tells him there's a new student. Riri says that the new student is a supermodel and has the figurines to pull off a cosplay as Liliel's best friend, Miriella. She remembered that she saw a camera not long ago and went to grab it. It's for the club and has lots of pictures of Otaku and his former club members. She feels she's been forcing him to do everything she wants, so she asked him for what he wants to do. He says that he's okay taking pictures because the last time was his first and he really had lots of fun. Before we know it, the dumb girl was already her clothes, and it never takes her time, and she never stops to think, hey, could this guy get over his head and maybe force clap me? No! She just always starts taking them off like she's in a girls' changing area. But today, she couldn't bring her cosplay clothes due to a security search at the school gate. She drags him to an empty classroom for them to take trial pictures with the camera. They take a few, but she doesn't like them. She says she prefers to be Liliel and knows he prefers her to be 2D too. The dumb virgin without thinking just said there's a lot of school uniform girls in manga and that makes her 2D enough. She immediately rolls up her skirt and takes off her glasses. In a bid to look for the perfect pose, she sits on the table with her knees to her chin, revealing all her peach covers. That wasn't good enough for her, so she got down and mistakenly hit down her glasses. She bent to pick it up, and this gave a perfect unaware pose like she's being clapped from behind, and he takes a picture of that moment. She hits her head while trying to get up, and by some miracle, she stumbles on him and almost sits her peach all over his lips, almost. Her buns were all over his eyes, and at the same time, he was holding those soft, juicy buns. After all the shenanigans, she remembers that she's not wearing cosplay peach covers, but her normal ones, and tells him to erase those pictures from the camera. She gets called by the teacher and runs away. Makari, Mika for shorts, was walking through the hallway, everyone, and when I said everyone, I meant all the lowly virgin boys in school. They wondered what club she was going to join and was eagerly waiting for her to choose. But in the midst of all the chaos, she gets drenched with water and begins to run away. The mob of disgusting virgins chase her. Otaku hears the ruckus outside and decides to check it out. Mika runs to the manga club door and stops. Otaku opens the door, and upon seeing him, she plunges her melons right into him for a hug. He closes the door, uses the board to cover the window, and says they've not seen each other since they separated for high school. Now she's a model, and a very hot one at that. He asks why her clothes are all wet, and she says it's a long story. She asks if she can stay here to dry off her clothes, and he agrees. She immediately begins to free herself and teases him as she does so. She says her melon covers are wet, and she wore them specially for him. She tells him he can turn around, and he sees her holding up her melon covers. He tells her to stop messing with him and turns around. She lays on the chair and turns her buns at him, saying she wants to take a nap. You know he's losing his mind. She asks him to join her on the couch. He yells at her and asks why she is doing this to him. She's enjoying it. She said that he never treated her like a cute girl. He tells her she's always been cute and her face goes red like a steam engine. She said she's cuter now, but he sees her fiddle her pigtails and tells her she's the same girl he used to play with a while ago. She gets up and reveals all her melons while trying to argue that she's not the same. He, at this right moment, trips over a book on the floor and plunges into her melons. Now they're both on the couch and he's on top of her. This crazy wannabe clapped girl uses the opportunity to hold him down and tease him. He begins to take off his coat and she starts to yell that she's not ready to go all the way yet, but he was just trying to put the coat over her and he says she shouldn't catch a cold. She gets up and while dressing up she asks if he has a crush on anyone. The first person that popped to his head was Riri, but he replied the same as before when he was a kid, saying the one and true love of his life is Liliel. Mika goes to the roof and wonders why she can't just open her lips and spill the beans about her feelings to him. The only reason why she became a model was so she could be cute enough to get all his attention. She remembers when her manger walked up to her and told her to forget about the ugly boy she has a crush on from school and focus more on being a super adorable model. When she's rich and famous, she can pick someone else and forget about him, but the whole reason why she loves him is because he saved her from bullies with his make-believe superhero act. She sees him and Riri down in the manga club room and dashes over at the speed of light to claim her man. She opens the door and begins to hit his chest, saying that he said he'd never cheat on Liliel. Riri recognizes her as the new girl in her class and asks her to cosplay with her. Mika takes a good look at Riri's costume and realizes that she looks just like Liliel. Mika demands an explanation and is given a befitting explanation. Mika wonders how Riri has no shame flaunting her body in such cosplay costumes, but to Otaku's surprise, because he thought she never felt embarrassed dressing up that way, Riri admits that she does feel embarrassed. Her love for Liliel, however, outweighs her shame, and for a big win, the ugly boy loves Liliel with his whole being. Mika doesn't buy it until she sees Otaku's ugly face and realizes Liliel really is the key to his heart. Riri, who's really in need of Mika's body for her cosplay partner, asks if Mika would like to cosplay with her. The Virgin warns her not to get her hopes up because Mika doesn't like manga, but to everyone's surprise, but not mine though, I saw it coming from a mile away, Mika agrees to cosplay without stuttering. It seems Riri isn't the only one who would go to strange lengths for love, and Mika is determined to win this to herself. Mika, thinking back on the Virgin's hesitation before answering about who he's crushing on, Mika suspects the dumb Virgin might grow some unwanted feelings for Riri because she cosplays Liliel. When Riri tells Mika she'll be cosplaying as Miriella, Mika whines about being the third wheel best friend and wants to take the place of Riri as Liliel. Otaku, impressed by the fact that she remembers the manga, notes that she still follows the manga. Determined, Mika drags Riri behind the board, insisting on playing Liliel since that's who the virgin likes. However, Riri's density rivals Goku's cluelessness as she asks why Mika desperately wants to cosplay as the character that Otaku likes. Mika realizes she can't just force the words to confess her feelings out of her mouth, so she claims to love Liliel as much as the love of her life and her love snatcher. With this password, Riri unlocks Liliel's costume right off her body to give Mika. Upon seeing Riri's wonderful and bigger juicy melon, Mika is humbled and sticks to being the side character of the cosplay. She then wants to know what the disgusting thinks about the side character. Mika asks Otaku if he likes Miriella, but she wasn't prepared for his intense geek-out session about why rice-caked chest like an ironing board with the straight expressway she calls a behind are acceptable. Unfortunately, the virgin stays loyal to Liliel, seeing Miriella as a sister. Riri offers to take Mika's measurements for the costume. When Mika asks if it'll take a month, Riri assures her she'll be done that day. The next morning, Mika heads to the manga club, finding Riri in her normal form, asking for more measurements. The reveals that Riri stayed up all night, hence her eye bags are deeper than Shinji's depression in Neon Genesis Evangelion, and she also made up for her sleepless night in class. Riri goes on and on about the importance of exact details, making Mika wonder who would care so much about a little detail like the number of stitches. Riri's dedication to accuracy is like Saitama's to his 100 push-ups. She strives to make her cosplay as realistic as possible, impressing Mika despite the weird behavior. When Riri finally finishes the costume, Mika nearly explodes upon seeing how revealing the cosplay costume is. The virgin reminds her it's Miriella's squad uniform, but Mika can't help but think it's worse than being Noticing Riri's similarly outfit, Mika decides she can't lose to her and summons her inner Erza from Fairy Tail. Later, as the virgin turns his eyes away from them, he hears all the details of the girls' changing session, featuring Mika's jealousy of Riri's melons. Mika grabs her melons, and Riri says it's something the girls usually do in the manga. This makes Mika question if Riri has any friends, and yeah, she's got none. While he sits in silent torture, the girls put finishing touches on their hair and makeup. Mika barely recognizes herself, but hopes the recognizes her desperation. When the girls are ready, they tell the otaku he can look. He turns to see a sight glorious enough for a zesty shampoo commercial. His virgin brain takes 2 hits, and he starts steaming. Once he regains his composure, he compliments Mika on looking perfectly like Miriella. Mika's dreams come true, only to turn into nightmares when the gaze quickly turns to Liliel, leaving her as an NPC. She realizes that, like Miriella, she's the loser third wheel thirsting after a bonehead who can't see past a blonde wig and chesticles. Mika feels like Miriella, so she screams out, asking why he won't look at her. The 2 idiots think she's getting into character and praise her delivery as she cries out to the for attention. Mika takes what she can get, and remembering Otaku's love for Miriella's cheeky buns, she goes down and angles her soft buns at him, asking if he likes what he sees. Otaku starts singing praises, so Mika messes with him, asking if he loves her. He readily professes his love, something Mika has waited years to hear, although the love he professed was to the character Miriella and not her. Riri pulls out the poses they'll be trying. Despite Mika's contract not allowing it, she decides to go along after setting up the backdrop. Riri tells Mika she can back out if she's too embarrassed, but Mika, eyeing Riri's huge melons, knows to get her man, she must feel a little embarrassed. She steps forward and Otaku realizes the deep trouble he's in. To prevent any awkwardness, he pretends to be the male character Ashford, and tries to make sure the hormones don't wake his Excalibur. Their first pose involves Liliel healing Miriella by laying hands on her. This makes Mika out loud. Riri tells Mika she's about to go, and the virgin gets hit by a wave of the Sanji flu and blood gushes out of his nose. Distracted by Otaku, Mika makes an accidental climax face when Liliel touches her, which Riri praises for realism. Mika questions what's happening, but is reassured by Otaku's approval. Otaku struggles to keep his composure, but when Mika places her hands on Riri's huge juicy he loses a pint of blood due to the Sanji flu. Mika wishes for such a reaction to her, insisting Liliel give her more healing by touching her manageably sized melons. However, she trips and gets stuck on Liliel's outfit. Otaku hears the sounds of victory as Riri asks him to help. Despite Mika's reluctance, the tries to unhook the costume, and by some miracle, the melon covers of both ladies are uncovered, and he's sent into shock as his eyes are blessed with the sight of so many melons. Later, the team discusses Miriella's backstory, making Otaku excited. He realizes Mika is a creepy otaku like him, which she denies until she sees how much he enjoys it, and realizes that she never really thought of liking the things he liked. Riri, noticing their fun, looks gloomy and jealousy, that is, and thanks Mika for helping with the costume. Mika breaks the news that they can't use the pictures due to her contract. Riri's color and joy faded on the spot, but Mika admits she understands why they like cosplay and wouldn't mind doing it again. As she leaves, she realizes she still has time to win her man. After Mika leaves, Riri wonders about her feelings but is snapped out of it by the disgusting virgin. She suggests they compile the pictures for a custom and sell them at the next event, giving them about a week. Despite Riri's protests, Otaku insists they'll do it together as promised, and he's been having fun. That night, they manage to escape the school security and work overnight in the club. Riri shows the Otaku the ropes, but it'll take a lot of time to finish. Panicking, she thinks they should have started earlier. Otaku grabs her hand, assuring they can do it together, but the foolish fowl spoke out loud. When the security guard calls out, Otaku pins Riri to a wall like a rom-com. He was ready to give himself up if the security came inside, but thankfully the guard remembers his scanty paycheck and leaves. When the virgin takes his hands off her mouth, Riri can't help but feel warmed down at her peach as she reminisces on how it felt for him to touch her lips. She sits down and realizes that she's not in this alone. They're finally through with editing the pictures. It took them 1 week straight of hiding from the security like criminals. Riri looks fine, like she's been doing this for years, but Otaku, on the other hand, looks like a devastated and starved zombie. He asks if they're finally done, and they high-five in victory. This foolish girl goes and downloads all the information to Mika all at once. Mika freaks out while trying to process all that information. She must be feeling insecure that those two manga weebs must have clapped. Riri asked her if she'd like to go to the cosplay fest, but Mika is more concerned about what happened during their stay together. She asks if Riri did anything with the little old senpai. Riri stood there, lost in the conversation like Goku whenever someone says something intelligent. Riri tilts her head. Maybe she'll understand, but Mika tilts her head back and asks what her feelings are for Otaku. Riri replies that he's a great manga lover and sticks to the culture. Mika breaks the news to her, saying it means she has the hots for him, and Tai totally disrupts her operating system even when she was home trying to pick up clothes for the cosplay fest. The knowledge of her feelings for Otaku bothered her, and now she has to look her prettiest for him. Her dog stood there waving its hand like it was mocking her. On the other hand, Otaku was in a dilemma because he couldn't find what to wear to what he feels is its first date. He can't believe he is about to take his virgin buns to his first date. He gets to the train station dressed like a side NPC. Riri appears like a supermodel that could easily rival Mika's modeling career. Her beauty blows his tiny mind away. She's insecure about her dressing, but Otaku compliments her that she looks like an angel that just fell out of heaven and never knew she was this fashionable. She, on the other side, just searched for virginity, taking killer dresses, and picked up her phone and called Mika to ask for help. Mika asked her to come over to her place early next morning so she could put together an outfit for her. A girl once explained to me the phenomenon of having 1,000 clothes but having no outfit for the event. Mika asked Riri not to tell Otaku that she helped with the dress. They get on the train and soon get off. The atmosphere was outright weird as they walked down the streets. Riri is taking this as a date, but Otaku is just being his self. The virgin eventually breaks the silence by saying they should go somewhere since they have time in their hands, but it's really early and almost everywhere they went was closed. She begins to pull a weird face, and he worries that she's getting worked up, but in reality she's feeling hurt because it's her first time covering such distance on foot while wearing heels at the same time. She stops him and tells him that she's feeling hurt. He sits her down and takes a look at her feet. After a while, she asks if he'll watch the new episode of Liliel's anime. They watch, and the cow screams Liliel's name out loud, and everyone walking by looks at the lowly virgin, but he doesn't care about them. He apologized for not noticing her foot was sore, and now they're sitting on a bench watching anime. She says it's okay since wherever they are, they always have fun. time, as it normally does, had run by while they watched the anime, and now they have to rush to the event center. They get there and Riri begins to act weird because it's her first time cosplaying. They get to their booth and lightning struck as they've forgotten to get posters and also disc covers to advertise their cosplay. Their next booth neighbor comes and mocks the living daylight out of them. The event soon starts and the place gets crowded, except for their table that had no customers until a fine young man came and broke the yoke of having no customers. The customer tells Riri that she's quite young, and that's when it hits the virgin like a stroke that whoever purchases their stuff will get a full-time limited edition of Riri in Liliel's costume. It's like his heart is about to jump out of his chest. He begins to question himself, why would he feel so protective like he's her boyfriend? He sighs of relief when the customer says he'll be back and dashes off. He must put himself in check. He holds his composure through the first customer, but when the second customer comes, he loses all composure and his steez drops to -1,000 as he hears the customer that looks like a fat pig ask if peach covers are all over her cosplay displays. Otaku yells that there's none like that. Otaku thinks they are, and his jealousy is not letting him have any peace. His mind eases when Riri says there are no illicit pictures in it. She begins to pack her stuff, saying since they most likely won't sell, there's no point in wasting time. The next booth neighbor comes over Otaku's ear and teases them sarcastically. He tells her to put on her costume and apologizes for feeling weird. He doesn't want anyone else to see her in her amazing Liliel dress, but who is he to hinder her dream? He tells her to change to her cosplay and rock her day, but she feels that everyone else will outshine her. The channels his inner Naruto and Pep talks the courage into her and tells her she's got the cutest Liliel cosplay in the entire multiverse. The day she wore it first, the club room was blessed with an angel. He's yelling all this out loud. He says that she made him feel like Liliel had jumped out of the manga just to be with him in real life. The neighbors can't help but feel the shock of his confession that blows their puny minds. He rushes her in to get changed. It normally takes her about an hour, but today she has to hurry. Wait, it takes her an hour? But in class, she gets the job done in a matter of seconds. He hears some voices coming from the girls' changing area. He turns and sees some guys. They tease him like they're taking pictures of the girls and ask if one was his. He screams back off and they all laugh at his disgusting attitude and tell him they are girls in cosplay. He apologizes and they call him cute. He goes outside and sees photographers taking pictures of his booth neighbors. The photographers comment on how boring the day has been. On the other hand, Riri had forgotten a handful of things, but the other cosplayers came through for her as they all lent her everything she needed. She gets ready and one of the cosplayers recognizes her as the girl they kicked out of the event a while ago. She gets ready, and as the booth neighbors of Otaku and Riri were teasing him, she runs out like a shining angel. Yes, in comes the angel, with her pink Barbie fairy attire, grabbing everyone's attention with a magical spotlight. Running in, you need to see the dashing smile on Otaku's face. Her melons were dangling from left to right, her soft buns showcasing her glory and her shape. I'm unable to express the shock in everyone's faces. It's like they just saw the birth of a new universe. The whole photographer's bad day suddenly lightened up as they saw her, especially their booth neighbor. He was mesmerized but tried to hide it. All the photographers gathered around Liliel and the poor little was kicked aside like a piece of rag. She's totally engrossed in their middle, but in the midst of the rowdiness, the booth neighbor comes in and saves the day as he sets her aside and makes space for them to take pictures of Liliel. They all thank her for allowing them to take pictures of her. She bows in return and these monkheads begin to take pictures of her. In the midst of trying to strike poses for the photographers, she trips and almost falls, and thanks to the shorts that the ladies in the changing room gave her, her buns were protected from the unsavory claws of the photographers. A few of them compliment on how she's a newbie, but both Otaku and the booth neighbor, lol, you thought I totally ignored the magnificent melons on the booth neighbor? No, I didn't. It deserves a moment to acknowledge how mesmerizing it is. Bouncy and juicy, I bet you wish you could bury your face in them. Back to business, the other photographers think she's noob, but the booth neighbor and Otaku knows she's pulling poses from all the manga series one by one. One of the NPC photographers mentions what Riri always wanted her cosplay to be, the fans feeling like the character came straight out of the manga. She suddenly gets hit by a wave of insecurity. Apparently her mom despises the idea of cosplaying, but after looking at Otaku's ugly face and remembering every time he encouraged her and put an effort for her, she's filled with courage and continues to pose for the camera. She pulls a final pose in the last second, and that concludes today's event. Everyone left there dissatisfied, blushing, but wished she came out earlier so they could have taken more pictures of her. Otaku didn't get to take any pictures, so he asked if he could take a few now, and with everyone gone, she was fairly relaxed and striked a good pose. Otaku quickly grabbed that. She says she was too relaxed and out of character, but Otaku feels it's just the perfect picture. She goes in to change and faces another mob who wants to purchase her cosplay pictures. She's out, and a lot of them want to get it if she can send them online. Time's running out, and she has to change or she'll be stuck as Lily L. She rushes to the changing room, and the girls use this opportunity to take selfies with her. Her booth neighbor asked her to help take off her tail. Riri admires it. The booth neighbor uses real-life fur, even though she has an allergic reaction to them. The dumb girl jokes about how it might one day take her life due to the amount she has inhaled. The girls began to tell horror stories related to their cosplay events. Like one time, one forgot to take off her zombie fangs, and everyone in the train kept looking at her. One's brother saw her wig in the bathtub and thought he found a ghost. Another's brother saw her wig on the TV like it was straight out of a horror movie. The girl who cosplays as a guy, her parents think she's dating 7 guys. The ladies think that Riri has got no struggles, but in reality, wait, Mama's about to list out all the good stuff. She says she's short 5'5". She said she's Melanie. I mean, her melons are bigger than usual, and her proportions are too Riri shows them a picture she took at home, and they quickly realize that her amazing body is not the problem. She has a bad dress sense that is way worse than Bentham of One Piece, who's wearing a diaper. Riri remembered that someone had lended her undies and wanted to return them, but someone tells her that she already says Riri could have them. Still, she still wants to meet the girl to thank her. Before she runs out of the changing room, she thanked everyone for their help. They tell her they hope they get to see her at the summer event. She runs out with excitement, and immediately she stepped out. She started screaming out Elf Lady in search of the lady who gave her undies. Otaku, on the other hand, who's been waiting for her, is utterly shocked at the fact that she's out here screaming at the top of her voice. The elf lady shows up and says she's the one, but she's without her cosplay and looks as hot as the sun. Riri keeps on calling her the elf lady, and the lady says she should keep her voice down and not expose her cover. She returns the undies, but the lady, she could have just kept it. Riri couldn't sell any of her rom-com, and the lady says it's a normal disease that every cosplayer faces on their first time. Riri gets news that her inspiration to cosplay is giving up on cosplay, but she doesn't let it dent her spirit for long. She motivates herself that she will eventually run into her role model one day if she keeps going to cosplay events. This relieves the because he already began to think of what he'll do to cheer her up. She begins to tell him that whenever she's with him seeing his ugly face, her heart begins to beat fast and she feels warm. Otaku's heart has already boarded a plane and flown half across the country, but she brings him back when she says the love she feels is because she loves the fact that he's her photographer and she feels safe around him. He was already thinking that she also feels the love he feels for her, but hearing her say that made him conclude that he also only loves her because he likes having her around. A classic misunderstanding between two people who will eventually end up slapping themselves out. If you like the video, make sure to check out one of these other two right here. Also, if you want to see the full plot-filled version, no restrictions, just subscribe to our Patreon in the description below.